We need to be very concerned, obviously, about the cost of energy right now. It's important to our people, it's important to our businesses, but we also have to take that long-range view to be sure that we're going to be competitive in the out years.
I think it's important to look at wind in the context of playing a role in a diversified economy. We need wind, we need solar, we need geothermal. We do need, to some degree at this time, a transition fuel in natural gas.
I think it's important to make clear that nobody is arguing that wind is the whole answer, that it can be all of Maine's electric supply, or it's a panacea for our climate problems or our energy problems. It's part of the solution. We tend to look for silver bullets, one answer. A friend of mine, Laurie LaChance, coined the term, what we really need to look for is silver buckshot. Lots of solutions.
Maine faces the challenge of being the state with the largest percentage of imported fossil fuels for our heating and transportation. We as a state, believe we have high energy costs, but part of that is because of the types of energy we use. If Maine can produce renewable power, whether it's wind or tidal or biomass, produce it here with local people producing it, creating jobs, creating economic opportunities, we can combat that high price of oil and that high price of energy costs.
We're at I believe, a transition point in our energy use. In Maine, the big energy use is home heating and automobiles. I foresee, and I think it's starting to happen, where we're moving toward electric heat and electric automobiles. Where's that electricity going to come from? How about wind power? The wind blows hard in the winter. Hey, that's when it's cold and we need the electric heat. There are a lot of ways that this all fits together that could make tremendous sense for Maine, because right now we're in the crosshairs of the fossil fuel economy.
Well, I remember about 2 years ago we had an incident in Chad. Had to do with Darfur and refugees and in Sudan and Chad issue. Chad produces very little oil, but there was a potential disruption, and just that in the middle of the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, which really doesn't impact the world stage that much, but that little uncertainty and risk cost about a 20-cent hike for a short period of time in the cost of fuel because of that uncertainty.
When we're negotiating with places like Iran, they have an advantage when they're selling us oil because we only get about 21% from Canada, and it's a global oil market, and we are dependent on these foreign states for our sources of oil.
We ought to have a much more diverse portfolio of energy sources. Renewable energy will be an important part of that equation, and certainly wind here in Maine could be an enormous benefit.
The only real way that I believe that people should develop their own opinion about projects is go take a look at them. And ideally, you also should take a look at images of or the sites of where the rest of our energy is coming from. So you should go on the internet and look at pictures of mountaintop removal, of where coal is being ripped out of mountains in Appalachia, because we're getting a lot of energy from coal. Probably 10 or 12% of Maine's electricity comes from mountaintop removal and other forms of huge open pit coal mines around the planet. Or you should take a look at the natural gas drilling sites in the West, because it only makes sense to think about wind power in the context of what our alternatives are.
Every source of energy, every source of power has its own costs associated with it. Some are subsidized. For example, I was surprised to learn that the coal industry is subsidized by the taxpayers, and that's a very difficult one for me to sort through.
People don't realize since 1926 the oil and natural gas industries and the coal industries have been subsidized by federal government policy and regional and state policies as well. So for us to compete in a marketplace where subsidies and tax credits and production tax credits and oil depletion allowances and gas depletion allowances exist, I think to level the field, I think there needs to be a dispelling of the myth that wind energy is overly subsidized vis-a-vis these other free market entities. It isn't free, and they're very much subsidized.
Well, I think wind power is a new development, but we've always maintained a really strong working forest environment in Maine. We're very adaptable to new technologies. in our business, and wind powers that in that same spirit of a new technology coming that provides opportunities for us.
You can project out and know that as we continue to see the costs of wind energy come down over time, in the same way we're seeing the cost of home heating oil and other sources of fossil fuel go up over time. And we know that if you look out far enough, there's going to be a time where those costs intersect. And we need to be prepared to make sure that we have an infrastructure in place if we're going to derive the benefit in the future.
The jobs that are created, the revenue that's generated, the fact that we have distinguished ourselves in some of our business as being a leader in New England, if not the nation, this is nothing but a very positive story, both in terms of today, when we beg for investments and signs of hope, but also the way it positions us for the future.
It's not the total answer for our energy future, but having wind come to this part of the state is like discovering oil in Alaska. At the end of 20 years, I hope that as people look back and say, what did today's leadership, what did today's community leaders, what did today's government get out of wind? And hopefully we can point to some tangible benefits and some tangible results that can significantly enhance opportunities in the future for our children and our children's children.